We continue here with Westmoreland on the Gridiron. I'm now joined by the second-year head coach of the Jeannette Jayhawks football program, Tom Paulone. His team coming off of a thrilling victory against Leechburg last Friday. And first off, I want to congratulate you. I know it's been a great start to the season. You've gotten some big victories, some very exciting victories along the way. Are you starting to feel like this program is turning a corner, getting back to where it was when you played, and obviously in recent years as well?
Sure, it's always felt like that, Sean. Even last year, with the red and blue again across my chest, it always feels like Jeannette. And of course, we're seeing similar results with the victories this season. But it's always felt like Jeannette, and it obviously feels like Jeannette with a big week, going into Central Week.
Well, so the victory last week against Leechburg, you had to kind of come from behind late. You had the lead. Blue Devils battle back, and then you have to get a late score, and Peyton Moulter delivered, your terrific quarterback. What's that like from a coach's perspective, seeing kind of the roller coaster of emotions, making sure that your team was, I guess, in the right mental place to finish that comeback?
Yeah, just that. It was a roller coaster and just staying in the middle, not getting too emotional. It was to be expected with a Randy Walters coach Leechburg team. They're tough. They fight you till the end. Randy's always playing the chess match. Him and his staff do a great job over there. So it's more or less just trying to figure out, where their guys were and making the adjustments and our guys, getting communicated with, and those guys executing, like you said, Peyton Moulter, Noah Sanders, our great offensive line. Our defense did enough to win the game. And like you said, it was a great victory. It was just, keeping everybody together. And that's been a theme this year, is just doing it together.
Getting a victory by any method or any means is significant, obviously, especially when it's in conference play. But have you noticed that a victory like that, a thrilling last second type of finish, carries more momentum for the players into the next week of practice and potentially even into the next game?
Yeah, definitely. The 2 days we practiced, we're 2 for 2 for good practices. So I'd like to think that, almost a scare tactic, right? There was so many things that went great. There's so many things that went wrong. They were ready to just come back and get to work, knowing how pivotal those moments were and how they executed. And I think it just made them hungry for more football.
I don't think it was something that you said necessarily loud enough for your players to hear, but I remember when we came to the training camp long before the first game of the season, you specifically told me and Dan Flickinger, I'm really interested to see if we can win against Leechburg this year. That will be kind of a litmus test to see if we've taken that next step. How important was this game, and how important was it to get this victory?
Very important. It's, anytime you went on the road in the Eastern A Conference, I got a lot of respect for the teams in our conference, the coaches that coach in the conference. So, like I told you guys in training camp, that was a game on our schedule. It was going to be, impactful, where we were as a football team. And I think we passed the test.
So let's look at the season to this point. Your only loss was overtime. So you've been familiar with playing in close games. You're awfully close to being undefeated. How do you feel like in terms of where the team is right now, and where do you still need to get better?
Sure. Just playing every day, every practice, great teams get better as the season goes on. And I think we're starting to understand that with the way we are practicing, the way we're preparing as a staff, the way we communicate that with the players, and the players communicate with us on game plan specifics. So, as a team where we're at right now, obviously we're very, we're pleased with being 6-1. In the back of our mind, we know that, there's a couple little things keeping us from being undefeated. And I think those little things is what drives you. You only remember the losses, right? You don't remember every right thing that went correct and all the victories, but you remember the little things that kept you from an undefeated season. So, we got our head down and we're grinding. We got a big one this week.
Let's talk about your quarterback, Peyton Moulter. He was pretty good last year, but I think he's clearly taken his game to the next level this year. The numbers have been outstanding, both as a thrower and a runner. He went for over 200 yards through the air and had a crucial touchdown late on the ground. Looking at him throughout his entire season to this point, how has he gotten better, and what has he meant to the success of Jeannette?
he's meant everything. He was a backup quarterback when I met him. He kind of wasn't unfamiliar with the quarterback role. And I think, our offense is really predicated around his abilities, and his abilities are very vast. He can run, he can throw. He's quite the student of the game. I worry about putting too much on his plate, but I haven't reached his limit yet. I mean, he's an intellect. I can't say enough great things about Peyton and who he is as a person, and as well as a player now. His success is the team's success, and he's a great leader, and he's our captain.
He's obviously the conductor of the orchestra, if you will, but he does a good job of getting the ball out to some explosive playmakers who can take it to the house every time they touch the ball. Obviously, Noah Sanders is one of those players. Kamani Brown has emerged this year as one of those players as well. And I think back 2 or 3 straight weeks, it felt like you scored on your first offensive play in the game, just getting one of those guys involved. Their ability to be a home run threat every time they touch it seems like is a major factor in the success as well. How have they taken this offense to the next level?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. They're playmakers. We want to get them the ball. Peyton wants to get them the ball. They're scripted touches for both of those guys, and Peyton drills when we get to the play call, right? But there's a cast of characters that support them. The downfield blocking with the other receivers, the offensive line getting Peyton time. It's really a team effort. But yeah, those two are special, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Kamani can do. The remaining 2 years we have him.
Well, you touched on the other guys who contribute. Obviously, it takes 11 on any side of the football to have success. Who are some guys who have been a little bit under the radar that maybe aren't putting up the eye-popping statistics, but are just as crucial in your team's success?
Sure. Our offensive line: Gavin Holmeyer, Jesse McCurdy, Wyatt Schaefer, Carmine Dianantis, Nick Stuchel. They are unsung heroes. I think we have 1,300 yards rushing through 7 games, and those guys have been grinding all the way. Our 2 tight ends mean a lot to us. We've been in a lot 2 tight end sets. Noah Sunder and Jeremiah Williamson. They're as much responsible as for those rushing yards as our offensive line, and they do a great job with keeping everybody at bay with our play action game. And I can't say enough about just everybody that contributes on our team. There's only 23 of us, 26 of us some days dressed, and everybody contributes in some way in the practices and getting ready to play football on Friday nights.
We talk about the numbers. I want to touch on that momentarily, but it seems like this team has improved from a year ago. A lot of the players that we've highlighted, they've also improved from a year ago. Now, in your second year as the head coach, how have you improved?
Sure. Just with the communication with the staff, I think we're a lot more organized in year 2 with, making sure that, things are communicated from a practice standpoint. I script practice every day, and I try to get it out the night before, if not the morning of practice, so that the assistants know what's the point of emphasis in getting on the schedule. And really, this is year 2. I mean, we learned a lot, in our systems last year. We changed our defense a little bit around this year with the defensive staff going to more of a 4-4 look. But, just those experiences, Sean, playing last year, playing in the playoffs, and, getting those lessons learned in defeats and victories, with what works and how you can communicate with players, and especially in this day and age. So all those experiences, added up, with, just being better. I'm constantly, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always learning, daily from my mentors, and I'm bouncing ideas off coaches and our staff. So, I'm still growing as a person and a coach. I'm not afraid to say it. And I'm committed to that because I want to be committed to our players.
It certainly feels like a resurgent year, and I know that the job is still not done, but trending in the right direction, I think, would be a fair assessment. That being said, the numbers have been a concern the last several years. Where do you feel like that is headed in terms of, will you have more players available, or will you constantly be battling year in and year out this attrition where you're hoping that you just have enough guys that you can suit up every Friday night?
Yeah, sure. So we revitalized the middle school program this year. We have 8 guys on that team, obviously not enough to play, but we've had 2 scrimmages so far. We think there's going to be a third one next week. so we're hoping to supplement those numbers that are incoming. We only had 6 incoming freshmen this year, so we cannot survive if that continues with those low numbers incoming. So we're hoping, we get up to 8-10 a year with the middle school program. But, it is a concern, right? There's only so many kids there. We recruit the halls pretty heavily. I'm in the school at least once or twice a week, dealing with academics with our current players, but also speaking to players that are prospective. But, it's always a concern. We'll coach up, who's there and get the best 11 on the field Friday nights. That's our commitment to our players. But, we want to make sure that we continue to grow the program and making sure that, whoever is available, is there and ready to be a Jeannette Jayhawk.
Well, I would think a good recruiting tool is winning some rivalry matchups, and you're going to have a few upcoming, including this week, Greensburg Central Catholic. I always say, regardless of the sport, GCC and Jeannette, it's always an exciting matchup. We've done a lot of basketball games, many football games as well over the years. Not even specific to this year's team. What does this matchup mean to Jeannette and Greensburg Central Catholic?
Yeah, sure. Jeannette, it's an old rival. It's highlighted on the schedule every year. Every resident wants to know when Jeannette plays Central. It's an old rival because, back in the day, the Catholic community in Jeannette, I think, is stronger than Greensburg, PA. They had a choice to go to Greensburg Central Catholic or to go to Jeannette City School. And, that was kind of the choice. And over the years, the, brothers playing brothers, in that game, cousins playing cousins. And I think that's what actually started the rivalry is that those matchups. So it means a lot just because it's an old rivalry. We know Greensburg Central well. Like you said, in every sport, it's almost a sellout, and it's going to be a lot of fun Friday at McKee.
A year ago, GCC had your number. They won pretty decisively. I know that 2 straight years the Centurions have come out on top, fairly lopsided. Before that, it felt like Jeannette was kind of running away with a lot of the games. This year, I would anticipate this is going to be a very competitive game that, much like many of your others, could come down to the final couple of moments. If that's the case, what will be key to come out on top?
Yeah, just play mistake-free football, winning the turnover battle and keeping their guys at bay. They got plenty of great athletes on their side of the ball that we need to be ready for, and, just playing mistake-free and just playing with more effort.
I know that they have a different coaching staff. JT has taken over John Thompson. What do you see differently this year for them as opposed to a year ago?
Sure. They're running a little bit different offense. I think Marco was more RPO. This offense looks like more air raid concepts. I think they do a good job, playing to their players. I'm surprised Coach Thompson, was still in the stack with that they ran a year ago. But, Coach Thompson's a great defensive mind. We know that. He coached Darius Brown at St. Vincent. He was the St. Vincent D coordinator when I was at Waynesburg. So I know Coach Thompson well, as far as that schematic standpoint. So he's a great defensive mind. We're going to have to be ready. We know he's going to be ready for us. We know how he prepares. And like I said, a lot of respect for what he does on the football field and at the collegiate level.
Do you have any good memories of your playing career against GCC?
Some of the best, Sean. 7-2 in the mud. They were number 1 team in the state. I was an underclassman, but just to be a part of that group of seniors, and Coach Ray Ritz and Roy Hall was on that staff, and I think Rankin came a year later, but Jim Ward was on that staff. Just great coaches that coached me as an underclassman, and to beat them again in Heinz Field twice in the same year. I think that was a great year memory for us. And really, like, the opposite of that, my senior year, Greensburg Central Catholic was state runner-up. It took second in our conference, maybe even third. Like, that's how competitive our conference was that year. And it was so much fun as a senior to play in that conference. Week in, week out, there was great matchups, and, to play people like Trent Hurley and David Miller, who went on to do great things at the collegiate level. In a losing effort, but just a lot of respect for those guys and playing in big games against top talent. That's what this game's always been about. There's always been a couple Division I players on each side. We'll see this year how that plays out with the talent on each side, but usually is, top talent on each side. And in those days, it was Division I, with mixed UK, and I can go on and on, Sean, but there was always great matchups and great memories from a playing standpoint.
Well, from over a decade ago, your memories, I'm sure now for these young men, they will be making memories on Friday night that they're going to remember decades in the future. Thomas, thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate the time. I know you said you're basically not going to sleep this week, but I still appreciate you setting a little bit of time aside to talk.
Yeah, not grounding like you, Sean. Always appreciate what you guys do.
That's Thomas Paulone, head coach of Jeannette. We'll take a break and continue with more right here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.